The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Ski Sundown in nearby New Hartford, Connecticut, offering bundled lesson packages including rental equipment and lift tickets. Online registration available at skisundown.com. Winter made better.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we explore the wild history of Greenfield's Stagecoach from its current resting place at the Greenfield DPW, with council member and local historian Sarah Bolduc.
And Mr. Universe Salman Hamid helps us process the weekend's events with some points of science that provide a little hope for our very distressing times.
But first, literary adventures through Western Mass.
And a debut novel from Northeast Hampton author M.J. Beasy about the balance of life and death. I read it on the snow day, and I knew it would be quick for me, but I did not expect me to read this as fast as and I still understand what happened.
Yeah.
It went so fast.
I was saying to Khalees that we read a lot of heavy-duty books and more to come, but this one was just a delight. It was so yummy. I ate it like I was a death god myself.
Local East Hampton-based author M.J. Beasy's debut contemporary fantasy novel, I Was a Teenage Death God, hits bookstores tomorrow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And it's just the type of witty and unapologetically queer mystery adventure YA readers and frankly all of us are looking for right now.
Featuring a non-binary teen who can't touch anyone without stealing seconds of their life away, I Was a Teenage Death God is a unique fantasy with the familiarity and nostalgia of a close-knit friend group solving a mystery. There's plenty to love, including a weekend road trip, theater kids, Wicked, friends to lovers romance, a bullying ghost, and family secrets, and a perfect blend of fresh representation. It is also, as we are told by your publicist, the first in a duology, which is good news. That would have been one of our questions, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, especially when you read the book, it makes sense that this is a duology.
Yeah, you want it to keep going.
Yeah, well, MJ is the founder of a teen opera workshop in Western Massachusetts. Their experience working with teens encouraged them to address their own experience of gender and is part of what inspired them to write young adult books featuring queer and trans characters.
MJ will be launching the book tomorrow, March 3rd, with a local event at the East Hampton Public Library in collaboration with and featuring book sales by our friends at High Five Books. And high five to you, MJ Beasy, for coming in and for this debut novel, which is a delight.
It is a delight.
Thank you so much. That you've really put me at ease. I'm so nervous as a debut author. You know?
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen with this book, how it's going to land.
Is this your first interview?
It's my second interview.
Dang
but
it.
The first one was yesterday, so I'm
Well, they were terrible.
fresh. Well, it's my first radio interview.
Oh,
so
well, that's
awesome.
good.
the first one where I have to worry about all my stammering and ums and uhs and all my rambling.
We'll clean all that up.
Oh, amazing.
We got the pitch from your publicist, and East Hampton, okay, we're Fabulous 413, that's right in our wheelhouse. Queer representation in YA fiction, great. One of the things that we would like to cover. Title, I Was a Teenage Death God, sold.
Done. Done.
Well, and full disclosure, I did not come up with that amazing title. It had a different title when
What was it?
when my agent. It was called Impossible Gods. When
Okay.
we put it out
I
on
like that too.
submission.
I like that too.
But when Tamara Grassi, who's the editor who acquired this for Page Street, when I had my first call with them, they were like, we feel like Impossible Gods makes it sound like it's going to be high fantasy. Do you have any ideas for title? And I was like, I'm bad at titles. I didn't even make up the title Impossible Gods. My friend did, Well, the sentence that's been going through my mind that I've been sort of using as an elevator pitch that I wrote down in the margins when I was first reading it was, I was a teenage death god. And my agent and I, we were both like, oh, well, that's perfect.
Yeah. Because it sounds like a horror movie from the 1950s.
No, it sounds very Beverly Cleary.
Oh, yeah,
is
that
what
too.
It sounds.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you taught opera to teens. Why?
It feels like a whole lifetime ago because the pandemic kind of destroyed that whole program and everything.
Yeah.
But I did teach and still technically teach voice out of my family's performing arts studio called Act 2 Studio. I had started a teen opera program during that time. I don't know if you remember, you interviewed me once, actually,
Really?
at the Academy Music.
For what?
This Monteverdi piece that we were doing
Oh,
a
wow.
long time, so it was like 10 years ago.
Okay. Apologies for not remembering.
No, don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry. No worries at all. So I went to school. I'm so old, you guys. But I went to school originally for classical voice, but I always wanted to do musical theater. So then I had a career in musical theater or whatever. But in school, my professors were like, no, you got to do opera. And I was so against it. I didn't like being told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was very Charlie, honestly.
Charlie is the main character of the book. I was the teenage death god in bookstores tomorrow.
I just didn't like being told what to do and what my career should be. So I went after what I wanted to do and then, fell out of love with it in 10 years.
Right.
A bunch of lifetimes later, a bunch of ADHD career changes later. Wow, I never thought I'd want to teach voice, but here I am teaching voice. And we had all these amazing students who were kind of ready. I feel like one day I said to a couple of students, would you ever be interested in doing a couple opera scenes or something? And they leapt on it, and a whole group of them did. But the plots...
We don't talk about the plots.
Not so great. So we rewrote them, kinda. We just took the pieces we had. Well, we had two unofficial mottos. The first one was "Make it gay," because that's
Always a good motto to have.
That's what the teens wanted, and I was really on board with that too. But the second one was, if they didn't want us to mess with it, they shouldn't have died. Since I was writing English librettos for most of the stuff anyway, I was rewriting the text a lot anyway. We just went with it and did what we wanted to do. It was very inspiring. For me, there's a straight line from that to this, which might not seem obvious to everyone.
Oh no, it feels the scope of this book is very operatic, which is why when we mentioned that in the intro, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of this make way more sense in the way that the plot moves and some of the ways that the characters move together. It is very much the way that later era classic opera moves in storyline. And that's really cool. But
And I don't care anything about opera, know nothing about it, but still love the book. I Was a Teenage Death God by M.J. Beasy, who joins us now. This book in stores tomorrow and a big public event at the East Hampton Public Library. You did mention Charlie as the main character, but tell us more about Charlie. Well, I don't want to divulge more than you as the author want to divulge to people who haven't read the book, because Khalees and I have read the whole book.
that isn't on the back of the book that
That's
you can
true.
just read.
I also
Anything that's
never
on
read
back of the book?
never read the back of books either, because I don't want it to ruin anything.
The back of the book is fair game, I would
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
I don't think it spoils too much.
No, it definitely does not.
And it probably says it more eloquently than I will attempt to do now. So Charlie is, as you mentioned, a non-binary teenager who was born with the ability, or curse, however you want to describe it, born with the ability to take other people's lives when he touches them, just seconds at a time. If he touches them, they lose a few seconds of their life, and Charlie gets them instead. Charlie has also, however, been haunted by a ghost ever since they were a small child, and this ghost named Lou wants all the life that Charlie can get, and it has sort of coerced Charlie into taking much more than they would on their own, because they have this very fragile agreement where Charlie will take whatever life Lou wants as long as they never take any from their best friend, who is also actually their secret crush, Ravi, who they've known since they were in kindergarten. They're both trans, and that person is off limits. Charlie has never touched Ravi, ever. And Ravi has somehow accepted this all these years. But everything falls apart when Ravi actually asks Charlie out. Mm-hmm. And Lou jumps on this opportunity as, now you have no excuse. You're going to start taking life from Ravi, and if you don't, I'm going to go after your twin, Sam, who is the only person whose life Charlie can't steal, by the way. Charlie says no. And that's when the story really starts, and we end up on this adventure with a road trip and a couple of other twins who call themselves death gods in order to try to find out what is going on with Charlie's ability and maybe, hopefully, if they're lucky, solve this Lou problem.
We're speaking with author MJ Beasley behind the new book, I Was a Teenage Death God, which will hit bookstores tomorrow. There is a big event to celebrate it in your hometown, East Hampton, or near your hometown?
My new hometown, yeah. Not where I'm from, but I've
where you
lived
are
here a long
from
time.
now, East Hampton at the East Hampton Public Library.
East Hampton's awesome. Talk about the trope of the disaster queer, because Charlie absolutely is. And folks outside of the queer community may not be familiar with this as a genuine, ongoing component of the Alphabet Mafia.
I love that you're asking this. What an amazing question. So the disaster queer, I mean, simply put, is a disaster at every turn. Making the wrong choice, and transparently so, like not fooling anybody. During the design phase for the cover of I Was a Teenage Death God, which was an incredible thing to go through. Like they kept sending me all these like choices and things that the illustrator came up with. And there was a certain point in the process where the note I gave was more unkempt disaster queer, less chiseled jaw and hair products. And I feel like they nailed it.
Oh, yeah. No, they definitely
And the
nailed
cover
it.
is beautiful.
But yeah, the disaster queer is, I think like a lovable character, a lovable figure in the world, but is making a mess everywhere. Looks like a mess, acts like a mess, and is ultimately most of us inside.
Yeah. Where did you come up with the idea, MJ, of the notion of touch, sucking the life out of someone else? Because imagine yourself in that position. If you couldn't touch anyone without stealing a portion of their life away, it's a heavy weight to bear.
They never thought of gloves.
I mean, we mentioned the disaster queer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Well, okay, so I'm going to have to divulge the secret thing that this book is actually about. Bear with me. I swear this comes around and makes sense. Charlie is non-binary, but the story on the surface isn't at all about Charlie being non-binary.
Right.
There's nobody who questions it. There's no transphobic characters coming in to try to make their life hell. It's not a coming out story. But the secret non-binary agenda of this book is about feeling like you are on the outside, like you aren't real, that you maybe don't really exist, and feeling like you're just on the outside of society. There's one scene in the book where Charlie is at the bus station at Port Authority in New York, and they are a mess. They like fell in the river. Like it's a whole big thing, and they're gonna go clean up in the bathroom. They need to go to the bathroom, and they have that moment that for when you are non-binary, that like sort of daily existential crisis of standing in front of a couple of bathrooms and being reminded for about the gazillionth time that week that you're not real. You don't exist to a huge swath of society, and certainly not the people who designed these bathrooms, who made them for one gender or another gender, none of which are you. I appreciated your all-gender bathroom that I saw when we walked in the building. But that sort of like constant reminder of there's a whole narrative that you're not real, even sometimes in the queer community, that you don't exist, that you're an aberration, that you are on the outside, there's something just inherently wrong with you. That's really what this book is about. It was really important to me that there wasn't some like thing at the end of the book where Charlie figures out how to not take people's lives when they touch them, but accepting themselves and living with that and feeling empowered to continue on. And maybe I'm not a monster.
But the book and Charlie, it kicks it up a notch because now not only are the outside, but the attempt at human touch brings death to somebody else. It's danger to other people as well. And that moving through the world in society as somebody that they're not only just an outsider, but they're also perceived as a threat by themselves.
Ends up like internalizing a lot of what other people say about that community.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say, I didn't know how bad things were going to get for the trans community when I started writing this book, which was in 2019.
Are you looking forward to your bannings?
Not at all.
Okay.
I didn't realize how bad things were going to get because for a while, things seem to be getting so much better. But lately, things have been pretty bad and getting worse. And they just, like in Kansas, they just invalidated all the driver's license.
Yes, this is not a political position that people are human and have rights.
Right.
Period.
And I think the book does a really good job of just incorporating that seamlessly in a non-political way. And it's not like everybody is handling the trans issue perfectly in the book. There are places where there's opportunities to grow and to learn and to understand. And that's heartwarming and handled very beautifully. I'm not going to cry.
You absolutely are. You're already crying.
A little bit.
Crying.
I can imagine this is going to be an important book for young. I mean, we're old, and it's for YA. It's for young adult readers, and we loved it. But I can
YA
imagine
books
that
are for everybody.
They really are. I can imagine a young person picks up this book and feels very much like a Charlie. And the fact that they are a trans or non-binary character in the book will really, fiction and art is what helps move us all as a society through these really difficult times. And this, I think, will be a banned book by lots of people, but it will also be a book that will
incredibly helpful to a lot of folks
bring
who
them
see
through the
themselves
dark
in those pages.
times. Yeah.
I think, honestly, including the two of us.
And it's also cool that you can kill people with your hands.
Oh my God.
I was a teenage death god.
Let's talk about twins and like the fact that this is a duology. Like it's interesting to me you talking about Charlie being non-binary and not seeing a real option for them when I find in these pages a lot of two-sided placements for things. Like there's Charlie and Ravi, there's Charlie and Sam, Charlie and their mom, there's the other twins that they encounter. Talk about twins and twinning and why two ended up being such a prevalent number throughout this book.
Wow, that is such a deep question and so such a brilliant insight that I wish I'd had when I was writing the book. All right, I'm gonna try to pretend that I was as brilliant as you are assuming with this sense of duality in this story. I'm making this up as I go. But maybe in my head there was something brewing about binaries and being non-binary in an extraordinarily binary world that was at the heart of this, and I just, it was subconscious.
I love it.
You can use that now going forward.
Now I'm going to say,
future interviews.
By the way, you guys, did you know?
Let
me tell you what this book is really about.
This book, I Was a Teenage Death God, hits stores tomorrow. There's a celebration at the East Hampton Public Library where MJ Beasley will be there. And we mentioned at the beginning, there is a sequel coming to this. When might we anticipate the sequel to I Was a Teenage Death God?
And I'm assuming it's about Sam, but it maybe isn't.
It actually, it isn't about Sam, though. I would say there's more Sam in book 2 than there was in book 1. It's always subject to change with publishing. So take any dates I throw out with a grain of salt. Schedules could always change. Who knows what could happen? But right now, I believe it's set for April of 2027.
Good. So we don't have to wait that long.
No, not that long.
Yeah, that's great. And have you already completed the book?
I have. I mean, I completed a first draft of it. We're in developmental edits right now with my editor, who is brilliant. Any chance I get to talk about how brilliant my editor is, the notes, the edit letter for this book, oh my goodness, I lost my mind. It was so good.
Did you always want to write a novel? We've talked about the circuitous route that you took to get to here.
Yeah.
But
opera coach, singer-songwriter, all sorts of educator.
Yeah. Did you always want to write fiction?
Yes. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with two things: music and books. And often they went together.
Oh, you are queer.
Yeah, exactly. I was one of those kids who shut myself up in my bedroom with books. We had to have a rule. My mother had to eventually institute a rule at the library that I couldn't take out more books than I was able to carry by myself at a time. So I loved books, and I always had an internal soundtrack for every book. I would have an album or whatever that I would play on repeat when I was reading that one book that became that book to me. And I came from a family of musicians, so my parents were classical musicians, and we always took trips to New York to see things on Broadway. We had one of my mom's best friends from college lived in New Jersey, right outside the city, so we could go and travel, and on their teacher salary, we could still take the 15-hour drive to New Jersey and then go to stand in the TKTS line and get whatever we could get a couple of times a year. So I saw a lot of Broadway shows, and I would say from the family that I was from, taking that route out of the two of the things. Like pursuing music and pursuing theater were the easy way to go. I knew how to do that. The people around me knew how to do that. But I was also obsessed with especially short stories. My mother read a lot, and she had a lot of books, and she had a lot of like these collected, bound like paperbacks that were collections of short stories by a sci-fi writer called Zena Henderson, who mostly I think they were all published in sci-fi magazines before they were collected into these books. But she had all those, and I just devoured them, and I was super into them, and I always wanted to write. So I would try to write short stories in the manner of Zena Henderson all the time. And to be perfectly honest, some of them were like basically copies of stories.
It's a good way to start doing anything.
I basically rewrote the same story like in my own, like basically when I look back. So I was writing all the time. I taught myself how to type badly, which I had to completely relearn when I got into junior high, and I had to take a typing class, and everything I knew was wrong. But I was trying to live the writer life. But that wasn't something that the people around me really knew how to do, though my grandfather wrote stories a lot, but it was a hobby. He wrote stories for my sister and me when we were kids that he would like send us in the mail. And
Fun.
so that was always brewing in there. I kept writing like in my spare time all the way through junior high and high school. And then I got to college, and it was really, I was in this BFA program, and it was very, very intense and very, very focused. We didn't have to take many classes outside our major, but there was this one creative writing class that we were all had to take, and I like ate that right up. But it was just like something that was off to the side. And then, years later, I got into like writing fan fiction for a while, which kind of got me back into thinking about writing. And, the interesting thing about writing fan fiction, I think, is that you don't have to do any of the exposition, because like you can assume that everyone who's reading it is already familiar with the entire universe and all the characters that you're writing about. So you can just like dig right into the meat of something, like just like jump into a scene, and you don't have to explain anything. You just like get to write the fun part right there. And I think that influenced kind of the way I think about writing too, and like how much I love writing dialogue scenes and just really getting into like characters interacting with each other. Then I had an idea for a book, not this book. And I carried this idea forever. It was like based on like childhood dreams. And I like sort of finally started to secretly write it. And I didn't tell anybody I was writing it because I didn't trust myself to finish it, because I'd never finished anything novel length. But then I did finish it, and I started querying that. If you guys don't know, that's the process of trying to get an agent, where you're sending your manuscript or like a part of your manuscript and a little pitch around to agents trying to get one. I queried that thing for a year, like crickets. I still love that book. It's not dead, it's just resting. But I queried that for a year, and during that agonizing year, I wrote another book, and it was this one. When I gave up on the first one, finally, when this one was done, I was like, I gave myself permission to stop the torture with the first one and started querying this one instead. And I had an agent offer in 2 weeks.
Sometimes when you're not trying is when the victory happens. Yeah. Well, this book is delightful. I think it's a lot of fun to read for people of any age. I think it is an important read, and it is a very interesting, unique story. And it is called I Was a Teenage Death God, which is the coolest book title so far in 2026 that we've read, for sure. And it was written by author M.J. Beasy, who makes their home here in Western Massachusetts.
And it was so hard to not ask questions about things that happen later in the book to ruin it for those who might go out and read it.
You, listener, go get it in bookstores
so
tomorrow.
that we can have that real conversation.
And you can go to the East Hampton Public Library tomorrow, and this book will be celebrated with M.J. Beasy and the folks at High Five Books, and you can pick up a copy yourself. Congratulations. I can't wait to read the sequel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back when the sequel comes out so we can contrast and compare.
I love that.
M.J. Beasy will be at the East Hampton Public Library tomorrow, March 3rd at 6 for I Was a Teenage Death God.
Soon we'll discover more quirky Western Mass goodness as we meet the 159-year-old stagecoach that's been adopted by the city of Greenfield with Council and Historical Society member Sarah Bolduc.
And the news from this weekend may have you in a tumult of feelings, and Mr. Universe is also in that boat. But together, we'll explore some of the ways we can find hope in these very precedented but woefully interesting days.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering in-person and online graduate programs in public policy and data analytics. Admissions now open at umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Dean's Beans Organic Coffee, a locally based worker-owned company committed to social and environmental responsibility, roasting fair trade, organic, shade-grown coffee since 1993. DeansBeans.com.
I don't want to do this. Talk about astronomy and other types of things under the current circumstances. It's really hard, but Monty, you have given me no choice.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Yes, well, unless you are living under a rock, we went to war again over the weekend against Iran, and we're here for some kitchen table astronomy with Hampshire College astronomer from Kainat Studios, Dr. Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe. The irony is not lost on me either about how much the space programs of old and the Cold War tie into the war making of now. The whole nuclear discussion is a space age discussion. A lot of what went into the Apollo program, our missions to the moon, was a deterrent to show our scientific might in light of the fact that humans have created weapons that could destroy all of humanity in a breath. I don't think Iran has created any of those weapons, and I was told by the current Oval Office that their weapons program was destroyed over the summer, but somehow they were moments away from creating a nuclear program that was going to be very dangerous, and the Board of Peace decided to go and attack another country over the weekend. As Saturday Night Live said,
I launched this attack after me and my Board of Peace decided that we were bored of peace. Little wordplay there. Did you catch it?
Nevertheless, there are bigger things in the universe than this small temporal time frame we live in, and we can observe some of those things.
Right, so I do want to talk about how to think, how to move. Can astronomy give you any hope and stuff? And in fact, when I was thinking about it, this was sort of like between hope and despair.
Yeah.
Despair is not the difficult part. It's the hope part that actually becomes more difficult. But for those who are interested, there is a total lunar eclipse, which is in our area, Western Mass, early Tuesday morning. So the moon would have gone into partial eclipse around 10 to 5, basically. And the total eclipse here would be around at a little after 6. So 6:04.
6:04 tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And
it won't be too bright to see it?
The moon will set very soon after. So you have to have to the west a clear horizon so that you can actually see it. So it's kind of cool. And then it's going to go below the horizon, I think, around 6:20.
But if you wake up early and see it when it's dark out, it will be
It will be partially eclipsed, but the totality starts at 6:04.
Okay.
The total eclipse in general ends around 7 o'clock. But of course, if it's below the horizon, it doesn't matter to us. So that said, I'm not saying anything new. This is a war of choice. And if you think about, well, who should be making choices? Some of the individuals who under normal circumstances are under various clouds of controversies, all the way from President Trump to Netanyahu to Saudi Crown Prince, for example. They all have been accused, or they all have been under shadow for various kinds of actions, which for most people, they will find it unseemly. And they're the ones who have made a decision taking us into a war of choice. So even if you think about, well, it's a war of choice, but choice of whom? At least with a congressional approval, you can actually blame a larger body who have taken a decision, but not in this particular case. So coming from Pakistan, we have seen the other side of it, especially the destabilization of Afghanistan, which is still playing out right now. Pakistan actually bombed in Afghanistan a couple of days ago. So that's a whole other story, which is not on the main pages. But of course, Iraq, with mission accomplished of President Bush and so on and so forth. So we have been living through that turbulent time, and the turbulence seems to be increasing. If we were on an airplane right now, they would have definitely asked us to fasten the seatbelts and probably get your barf bag ready. Okay? So in this thing, so what do you do? There is a sense of powerlessness. Although people power is extremely crucial.
There were a bunch of protests even locally yesterday throughout the valley.
Which is important. But it's also important to you get up in the morning and say, okay, so you need to be motivated. So I was thinking about how to think about it. And one of the things is that in some sense we are not alone, not just in terms of contemporary aspects, but also in terms of great literature, novels or films and other things. one property of humans, in some sense, has been that they've been doing these kind of things since I think humans have been around.
Yeah.
And this battle between despair and hope, I think that has been going on as long as humans have been around. And that's the reason why there is good literature to reflect on that. How do you deal with these kind of injustices, these kind of actions of tyrants, of dictators, and so on and so forth? And science fiction in particular is also really good at imagining these things. So there is great science fiction all the way from Dune, again, which is a novel, but also movies.
And about empire and genocide.
And about a space dictator.
It's not just sandworms.
Spoiler alert, I should have said, but no, people should know about that. And or *Handmaid's Tale*, for example.
Yeah.
And so 1984.
Right.
I mean,
I'm about to start the second book in the Isaac Asimov series Foundation later today. So yeah, this will be a way to take a glimpse of what's going on in real time through a lens of imagination and fantasy and hope.
And also, we mentioned a few weeks ago the new Star Trek series, Starfleet Academy, which I think, especially the newest episode, the 8th episode has been out, and I think it's fantastic. And it deals with some of these things, but again, without giving any spoilers, it's capturing some of the philosophical underpinnings of the original Star Trek and Next Generation in terms of sophisticated storytelling, especially episode 8. I think it also matches some of the best episodes in the Next Generation.
I'm only on episode 5, so don't ruin anything.
I'm not going to ruin. Auntie, you are so lucky. I was just this close. But how do we think in terms of astronomy? Of course, one of the most famous passages to write about this was by Carl Sagan in Pale Blue Dot, in which he reflected on the image of Earth taken when Voyager 2 spacecraft passed by Neptune. And Carl Sagan actually requested NASA to actually turn back and look at the Earth. That was unusual at the time. And it was, I think, 1990, that, okay, why do you want to turn back and look at the Earth? What his point was like, this is a human achievement, but what do we see from there? And it was a pixel. It was a dot. And so there were his reflections, which if you haven't, do check those out. But one of the things that he said, I think that was a big part of that, was in which he says, and this is, I'm quoting Carl Sagan regarding that Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and
emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot.
And really, in some sense, you can think about this cosmic perspective, as Carl Sagan would say, where you have these wars undertaken by various people, and you feel good about it, and you go like, hey, we won the war, or we destroyed so and so forth, and you bring in misery and all of that stuff, and triumph too, but for what, right? I mean, so there is this element that astronomy provides you with, this perspective of how small we are. And so this is where I would recommend two things for people to do when we are dealing with between despair and hope. How do we turn around the corner? Because this is true, what Carl Sagan wrote, but there is also this element of the pain of individuals. Yes, this cosmic perspective is correct on the large scale, but there is also the reality of pain that individuals have to endure and suffering that comes from these actions. And I think that is also on a human scale, that is also crucial. And for that, I would recommend a documentary that came out, I think around 2010 or 2011. It's called Nostalgia for the Light. It's one of my favorite documentaries. It's by a Chilean director, Patricio Guzman, who was famous. His famous movie was documenting the coup of the Chilean dictator Auguste Pinochet. That was called A Battle for Chile. As it turns out, Patricio Guzman, the filmmaker, he's an avid amateur astronomer. He loves astronomy. And Chile, it's spectacular for astronomy. Atacama Desert, which is extremely dry. It is in the Andes. It's beautiful for astronomy. It's an ideal place, and that's why there are a lot of observatories, including a lot of American observatories are there. And so this particular documentary talks about astronomy. It's a nostalgia for the light. I mean, because astronomy is all about the past, because of the time that light takes to get to us. And astronomers are trying to piece together our own past, our own origins, by looking at the light coming from stars and galaxies. But a lot of the history, a lot of the past is also preserved in the desert, including there is a history of poor mining conditions of laborers in Atacama Desert, but also Auguste Pinochet, the dictator, he actually killed a lot of people and their bodies were dismembered and then spread out in the desert. And so those are called the disappeared. And there are women in Chile looking for the remains of those that were killed. And so they are also trying to piece together the past. So this documentary, it also interviews astronomers who are working at telescopes, piecing together the past, but also these women that are there, and also these prisoners in the concentration camps made by Auguste Pinochet. And some of those survived or maintained their senses by looking up at the stars. Tyrants and dictators, which actually may seem senseless, again, in the cosmic perspective, but the movie does a great job of acknowledging the pain experienced by the victims, because that is also real. So that is, again, nostalgia for the light. It's a spectacularly beautiful documentary, and it connects the big themes with individuals. And to me, that's the best example of being in between despair and hope.
Meanwhile, if you want to connect to the greater things of the universe and recognize that when there are astronauts on the International Space Station and they look at us down on Earth, that we're living a lie, that we have borders that separate all of us, that we are fundamentally different. No, we're all part of this community. We can look from here up, and tomorrow night into tomorrow morning, a full lunar eclipse and an alignment of planets in the sky as well.
Yeah. A couple of days ago, in fact, it was the best place when you could even see Mercury.
Which you can rarely see, is usually very close to the horizon, but was observable.
Was observable. But the second thing I would like to suggest, other than the lunar eclipse and the planetary alignment, is that this is a great time to go out at nighttime and look up and find Orion. Look towards the west and you will see this amazing constellation. I mean, if you look at the stars, like the orange star, Betelgeuse, well, that's about 600 light years away, meaning to say when you're looking at it, the light started way before Trump. 600 years it has taken to us. But what I would like you to imagine and focus, and this is something that I try to do. Like, whenever I go out, yesterday was trash day, my favorite time, just to go out when you're taking trash, look up, just imagine the scales. So just below the 3 stars of the belt of Orion, there is a little cluster of stars, and you cannot see it without a telescope, but there is a Orion Nebula there. This is about 1,500 light years from us, meaning to say when you are looking at it, the light that is coming from it, it has taken about 1,500 years to get to us. But that is a place where a lot of young stars are forming. So those are baby stars. This is a kind of place where our sun formed. But we can see this place where eventually you will have stars, and we know there are planets that are being forming as well, but very, very early. And eventually we expect there will be planets, maybe there'll be life, maybe it will evolve into complex life forms, maybe it will evolve into some sort of intelligence, and maybe over there is also going to be tyranny, or there will be people struggling with despair and hope. But when you look at it, in some sense, it gives you a perspective that all you have to do is just look up, and then you can come back and look at the news. And it gives you a little bit of pause, a little bit of hope. Ultimately, there is a lot more going on, and there is a much bigger universe.
Speaking of neat things that may just give you hope, up next we head to Greenfield to see a stagecoach that is a window into 160 years of local history and connection that is just starting to be uncovered with City Councilor Sarah Bolduc.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by GZA Geoenvironmental, an employee-owned environmental consulting firm in Springfield and Syracuse, hiring entry-level to project managers in ecological and civil engineering to share in GZA's future. GZA.com.
We are in Greenfield, right off Wells Street, at the Greenfield Department of Public Works building, where we're surrounded by cool fire trucks, which already made my day. And people coming to get their dirt to try to help out their walkways, etc. But we're with Greenfield City Councilor Sarah Bolduc, who is wearing a different hat right now.
Not on that side.
We went all over the place. There's the fire trucks in here, and now we're going up the stairs. We're here to see something historical. A stagecoach! There it is. It is a black and yellow stagecoach that says Greenfield on it. Sarah, tell us your relationship to this stagecoach.
Well, if you want the truth of it, it's kind of my emotional support stagecoach at this point.
Which stagecoach of grief are you in?
How do airline attendants feel about you taking this with you when you need to travel?
Yeah.
It's a little too big for carry-on, but we manage. But no, this actually, I didn't even know that we had a stagecoach for the longest time in Greenfield, and I've been a lifelong resident. And I'm part of the Historical Commission. I'm the secretary of the Historical Commission, and they were just talking about how the Greenfield DPW had a stagecoach, and I was like, excuse me? And I sat straight up, I leaned forward, I'm like, what? Did you say, what? And they go, yeah, it's just kind of hanging out at the DPW. It was out in the rain for a few years. It's kind of in pretty rough shape. And I was like, stop. Not long after that, the mayor's office actually contacted the Historical Commission because this used to be a parade piece. And the goal is to have it restored and eventually put back in the parades. We had no idea what that involves. We're kind of professional amateurs at the Historical Commission, so none of us we're all volunteers, right? So we're just really passionate about local history. How do you get a stagecoach restored?
Yeah.
And so to do that, the vice chair, Tim Blagg, is working on the logistics of getting it restored. So we have quotes and everything like that. And I made it my personal mission to find the history of the stagecoach because the mystery of how it got to Greenfield and why it's here had never been solved before. And I figured it out. And so that was really exciting.
Yes!
That's awesome.
Sarah, Nancy Drew Bolduc and the Greenfield stagecoach here at the Greenfield DPW.
I mean, everybody in historical societies is a detective of some sort.
Yeah, and we talk to a lot of historians, and that's what they have to go through all these arduous files and old newspaper clippings. And it's interesting, Tim Blagg, who's former editor of the
Yes.
Greenfield Recorder, a lot of the history of this stagecoach exists in the pages of the Recorder. So what do we know about the stagecoach? When do we think it was created?
Oh, we know exactly when it was created. It was actually created, it was ordered in May of 1867, completed in June of 1867, and it was actually made and shipped to Brattleboro, Vermont for what would then have been the town's stage driver. His name was Tom Miner, and the stage driver at the time was basically just a luxury taxi driver. 1867, the railroads are coming into the area, right? And so the stagecoaches, the long haul stagecoaches that you think of like Buffalo Bill and all that, they're going out of fashion. So this stagecoach, when it was made, it's a Concord coach. They're luxury pieces. It wouldn't have been cheap. And so this was an investment in the local transportation industry. He was basically trying to compete with the railroads by offering his services as essentially a luxury cab driver to the different hotels. And so if he would pick up guests at the railroads, bring them to their destinations. But only so many guests will come up the railroads and stuff like that. So this was actually having a relationship with Greenfield even back then. It had a dedicated mail route between Greenfield and Brattleboro. Oh. And that's how people in Greenfield got to know it. Because being a stagecoach driver, you bring people, you bring luggage, you bring mail. This was used for all kinds of different things. And in fact, if you look at the back, that seat was actually added later. There would have been a baggage rack that came down sort of diagonally to basically pick up luggage and stuff in the back. And this is an onboard seat that was added later in about 1897.
Yeah, you can see where the supports have been removed to put the seat in.
And the seat is period accurate, but not necessarily, it's not original to the piece. Tom Miner at the time was well beloved. I actually have a couple snippets from the books, the Annals of Brattleboro, that talk about him and how he was beloved by the town. He was very friendly, but he was an older man and he died a few years later. But before he did that, in about 1873, he sold all of his coaches and all of his horses and all his equipment to a man named J.A. Taylor. J.A. Taylor was a selectman of Brattleboro. And he was one of the upper echelon people at the time, and he owned another livery business. The stagecoach would have ended its working life with him. However, the important thing is that J.A. Taylor was really into horses. And so this is where we can kind of move the lens a little bit and talk about the fairgrounds.
Franklin County Fairgrounds here in Greenfield?
Eventually, yes, but Fairgrounds as an institution are where, at the time in 1867, innovation would have been happening. Like you've got all these things like, oh, we're gonna showcase electric lights and stuff like that in Chicago's fairs and stuff like that. So around the country, you have this push for agricultural societies. Those would have been places that really featured innovative ideas, new technology for farming, things like that. It was a huge social event. And so J.A. Taylor, because he was connected with the well-to-do of the area, and he was into the library and things like that. At the time, where the high school is in Brattleboro, there was a horse racing track, and that became the Brattleboro Fairgrounds for the Brattleboro Valley Fair, of which J.A. Taylor was the superintendent. So as the superintendent of the fair, they would have had coaching parades and things like ancient vehicle parades and stuff like that. Greenfield did much the same thing, and they had their own coaching club with families like the Riddells and the Pierces and all that. And what happened?
Names that you see the streets named after of Greenfield today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is about 1890, 1895. This stagecoach is very old. The average lifespan of a working stagecoach is like maybe 20 years. So this thing is a little old, it's a little beaten up, it's been used quite a bit. It retires, it becomes a parade piece. Brattleboro and Greenfield already have these social connections. The J.A. Taylor family, the Pierce family, those families would have been socializing, they would have been intermingling and having these high-end parties and things like that.
They were the Epstein class of their day.
Well, hopefully with a lot less, indictments and all that, but...
Who knows?
But yeah, they would have been the ones who would have had the horses and stuff like that to take care of, and they would have had the wealth to literally go and make coaching parades a thing. Greenfield had a coaching club about 1900 on, and they literally took these coaches once a year and they led the fair parade to the fairgrounds.
It's like a car show now, or an antique car show, kind of the same thing. They didn't have cars yet.
And this particular stagecoach, because it was a little older, it wasn't the ones that the men drove.
Oh.
So the men got the nice fancy ones and the women got the leftovers. If you look in the photographs that I sent you, I had that one that's labeled Tally Ho.
Yeah.
That's this.
That was all, and it was crazy. It looks like it's been decorated for a wedding. It was
Yes.
not black and white, I don't think.
The
Black and yellow at the time.
I don't think so, but the women would have covered it in paper. They literally made it a parade float, right? But they got those coaches because they were like the second class and all that. And this was like a geriatric vehicle at the time, which is hilarious in 2026, where we're using the radio to talk about
A stagecoach from 1870.
Right, exactly. It just kills me.
More coming up with Sarah Baldock and the 159-year-old stagecoach as we hear how neglect might have helped preserve the vehicle, and we get a chance to check out what a ride might have felt like with our very own bodies.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. We are in the Greenfield DPW on Wells Street with Greenfield City Councilor and Historical Commission Secretary Sarah Baldock, looking at a 150-ish year old stagecoach.
157. People have been looking and trying to find out the mystery of the stagecoach for years. Nobody really knew how it got here. If you ask the guys at the DPW while we're here, this was outside in the yard for a while, but prior to that, it was out in the rain for a while. Prior to that, it was up at Camp Kiwanee, where they do Wormtown and all that. There's a barn up there for Just Roots. That was the town poor farm back in the 1920s and stuff like that. That's where it was. And so this thing actually got almost destroyed in the flood of 1936. Apparently the floodwaters went all the way up almost to the roof.
And the roof has got to be almost 7 feet.
I think it's 9 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so it was actually painstakingly restored by one of the DPW superintendents at the time. But it's been in possession of the Greenfield DPW for like about 100 years now. And I want to make sure that they get the credit where that's due, because in 1912, it's the baseball field over by the Cumberland Farms next to the Lunt Silversmiths.
Yep.
There was a stagecoach that was abandoned out there by the coaching club. In 1912, around July 3rd, some quote-unquote law-abiding good doers set it on fire. And so these stagecoaches, this is pure luck that it survived, through the fact that it was kind of abandoned socially when those nobility chains, if you want to call them that, they kind of moved on. This thing was abandoned because it was older, and it was put in a barn because the women who were taking care of it would put it away, and they didn't just leave it out in one of those fields. We got lucky with this. You look at this thing, and these are the original wheels. What kind of muddy conditions have they gone through? How many people have they seen? How many stories are they telling?
And the wheels are wooden, right?
Yes.
And what is this? Is this like a metal tread?
It's a metal tread, yeah.
We should talk about what this looks like because it's got like headlamps that are candle lit.
Originally, yeah, it would have been candlelit because this was all before electricity.
It has suspension, which I don't think about in a stagecoach.
I mean, like it's got leather shocks.
Yeah.
The Concord coach was actually known for it was like a state-of-the-art leather shock suspension.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons it was considered a luxury model. So it's all ox leather. That's one of the things we want to make sure when it gets restored, that it gets restored by somebody who will do it properly with materials as close to the authentic materials as possible.
I mean, we're saying like it's got leather shocks. There's like 8, 9, 10 layers of leather.
It's like beef jerky.
It's like a croissant.
It's a beef jerky. It's a beef jerky croissant.
It is kind of.
Oh no.
And then like the interiors are also kind of amazing. Like there's all this intricate carving, but it's leather interior. Horsehair seats.
This thing would fit 9 people.
Wow, 9
How?
small people.
You fit a couple on top, couple in the front.
Oh, in the top. Oh, yeah,
okay,
if you put the top and then the
You
front.
have back seats.
And this is now they added extra capacity, but when it was built, it was designed to fit 9 people and their luggage.
Technically, there's 2 seats in the middle if you count the bench.
And this would have been pulled by horses or what
Yes.
have you.
Yes.
Right? And there is the front, the traditional stagecoach looking front that's over here. Has been brought into a movie, right? Didn't they use it in the filming of a movie?
I actually had no idea, and I was flabbergasted. My gabbers were flaccid at the time. But yeah, so Deerfield and Coleraine and all that, we all had our own old stagecoaches, and I believe Old Deerfield still has an old historic hearse, which, for the record, that's how I want to go, right? That's how I want to leave this mortal coil, is a historic hearse.
Stagecoach, historic hearse.
Exactly. Yeah, so Greenfield's historic coach was actually used in I believe 1956. It was in a film in Old Deerfield that they made about George Washington traveling up to Saratoga in a stagecoach, which is unfortunately like the best they had, but it's not period accurate. I mean, this was made in 1867. I would like to think that George Washington was long dead by then. What really gets me about that too is like people treat it like a working vehicle, and fair enough, it is, but it has a number, and not many Concord coaches have numbers, so this is actually a museum grade artifact.
Wow.
And so it's just ironic that they were like, yeah, let's pull out that museum-grade artifact and film a movie about George Washington. All right, well, that's fine. They were using this in ceremonies. It actually went over the French King Bridge. It led the parade down the French King Bridge when that was opened. The Cheapside Bridge in 1932, when that opened, it led the parade of antique vehicles over those bridges. So that was the last time it was used in ceremony. But yeah, this thing it's been around for a long time, and one of the things I'm trying to do is digitize a book called The Conservative Rebel, A Social History of Greenfield, Mass. And it's actually really interesting, and I want to write a sequel because it stops in 1982, but it talks about why the town is the way that it is. And I went to the Historical Society because there was a lot of photographs in the book, and I'm like, hey, do you guys have the originals? And they had extra photographs, and that Tally-Ho photograph is in a book. It's called a souvenir book, where they actually photographed all of the stagecoaches that were in the 1897 parade that year.
So how did you know that this one was the Tally-Ho? Because it doesn't look anything like that Tally-Ho picture, as we mentioned, that looks like it was all decorated like it was for a parade float, but looks like it could be a wedding.
Because the body of the Concord coach is just iconic.
It's as stereotypical a stagecoach-looking stagecoach as you can imagine.
As you can imagine, yeah, except this one specifies no commode.
Interesting that they would have had ones with a commode.
Well, sure, if you're going to go out west, you want to
pull over.
But yeah, this one was for city trips. It was for a few hours at a time. And it's been in Greenfield's possession for over 100 years now. And in March of 1936, they were actually talking about getting rid of this because it was in the middle of the Great Depression and they were paying $32 a year, which is $800 a year, which, okay, you're accounting for spending power. It's a lot of money to store this thing. But the town unanimously voted no to keep it, which is great because then 2 weeks later, the flood of 1936 happened, and now they're like, oh, wow, now this $800 expense is, now we got to fix it. But people have been wondering about this coach for a long time. When that article came out in 1936 in February, they were like, we don't even know where this coach came from. We don't know how it's here. It turns out it's just kind of a handshake, back of the napkin agreement between local families. Oh, I have this coach, I want to loan it and it's going to be in this parade. Sure, you can take that old coach, blah, blah. It's been in Greenfield for over 100 years now. It just kind of got forgotten about.
What is the future of this stagecoach? Sarah Bolduc, who is the Secretary of the Greenfield Historical Commission and City Councilor in Greenfield. What do you want to see happen to this 157-year-old stagecoach that's sitting amidst John Deere lawnmowers and buckets of spackle and things like that
and
here in the
piles of detour signs.
This is where they make the signs. The future of this stagecoach, I think the chain of stewardship is going to be allowed to continue. I happen to be the current link in that chain, but what I want to do is have it actually go back to the fairgrounds, as that old legacy would kind of imply that it seems to belong there. And Michael Nelson, the president of the fairgrounds, they're working right now to build a pavilion for it, where it's going to be behind a museum glass, and people are going to be able to like kind of enjoy the fair while being able to appreciate this gorgeous piece. And it's going to be restored over time, and so we'll be able to wheel it in and out, you know, and have something temporary like, oh, you came to see a stagecoach. Would you like to see a movie about a stagecoach? And you know, while people are waiting. But this is going to be a couple of years. It's going to be about $180,000 to repair the stagecoach.
And you're not anticipating, because you said it's museum quality, that it would be in future parades and paraded out like that?
You know, and the thing is that if we're going to restore it, the goal is to have it out in parades.
Wow.
And so we could have it live at the fairgrounds and basically just walk it home. It's just going to go slow. It's going to be in the parade, and then it will go home.
Yeah, because there is a Franklin County Fair parade every year. So
every year like clockwork.
It feels like it should be used. Like one of those things, like if you don't use leather, it cracks and you have to keep replacing it. So it's better if it goes out and gets used at least a little bit once it's restored.
Cars want to be driven, and I'm sure stagecoaches do too.
Who is restoring stagecoaches these days? That doesn't work on a movie set.
I actually sent Tim an email to find out what the name of the guy was.
Tim Blagg from the Historical
Yeah,
Commission.
I haven't heard back yet, but what I can tell you is that it's out in Montana or South Dakota, somewhere out west where the stagecoaches would have all ended up. It's a contractor who will literally subcontract professionals to work on like a wheelwright. The back wheels are 4 feet tall, you know, like it's not small.
Have you ever sat in the stagecoach?
I actually have, yeah.
Nice.
Do you guys want to get in it?
Yes. That was my subtle way of saying,
We do have
what
to
if
be a
we
little
sit in it?
careful. And I believe everything is original. These are the original locking mechanisms and everything. It's just very simple.
That's nuts. And when we say like it's got leather upholstery, like we mean the walls and the doors also. Like there's different leather, but on the outside walls of the coach is more leather.
You can see all the water damage too, how the wood has been swelling over time because these are the original doors. They had to dry everything out.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everything is dried out and it's a little warped, and you can see there's a spot where the paint has been rubbing because the doors have been opening and closing for years.
Yeah. Okay, you want to get in first, Khalees?
Do I? Okay.
It's 9, so I think we'll be okay.
That's like 19th century 9.
I'm like
Wiggles a
two
little
19th century people. So.
I'm going to wear the stagecoach home.
Yeah, it's really dusty in here. But this is dust that Abraham Lincoln breathed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like it's 150.
1867, it was too far gone.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, yeah.
having children in here is, I feel, the only way you're going to get 9 in here now.
Well, if you put them on the roof, but maybe wait till it's restored to get
Please
anybody
don't
up
put
there.
them on the roof. This is nuts. We're going to wear this history back to the studio.
That's right. That's what history's all about. Bringing the dust back to life. All right, here we go. Exit stagecoach. Well, Sarah Bolduc from the Greenfield Historical Commission and the Greenfield City Council, if people believe in this restoration of this stagecoach from the 1870s and want to see it live again somewhere outside of the DPW building on Wells Street, what should people do to get involved?
Right now, I'm hoping to get an account from the city so we can actually start receiving funds. I've been in talks with organizations like the Daughters of the American Revolution, who, you know, grant funding right now is going to be everything that saves us, grant money and private donations. This thing hasn't been really touched in 80 years. It's one of those things where when we act as a link in that chain of stewardship, we're saying to the future that even though things right now seem really, really complicated and dire and everyone has their stresses, like this is a gift that we're giving to the future. We're acting with intention. We're connecting the past and the future. This is not a gift that I would say should be taken lightly. It's literally our story. I want this to be something that kids can come 100 years after I'm gone and be like, wow, this is a stagecoach, that's ours, that's Greenfield Stagecoach. That's what I'd love to see. It's a great reminder that the future isn't as dire as we think because people have always cared about stuff.
And if it is as dire as we think, at least this will run when the cars don't anymore in our dystopian future.
I like the way you think. That's optimistic, actually. You know, but to be fair, I don't know that we have people who could drive a team of horses. Oh, you know what?
Yeah, we sure do.
We know some farmers.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna come see you guys when.
How is your coat doing, by the way? Because it was covered.
I got
in
almost
this.
all the, I wear a lot of black clothing and a lot of dust on my clothing. I also told my 12-year-old before we went, I'm going to check out a stagecoach in Greenfield, and he thought we were going to go meet somebody who would help out memorizing lines for a theater production.
That is still adorable, and I have so many questions.
Not that kind of stagecoach.
No,
But thanks again to Sarah Bolduc from the Greenfield Town Council, City Council, and from the Historical Commission there.
Yes. On the next Fabulous 413, we get into another book on gender from a very different angle as we speak with UMass professor Allison Butler about her new book, The Judgment of Gender: How Women Are Centered and Silenced in Pop Culture.
And we'll celebrate some accolades that Wander in Pittsfield has garnered recently with founder and owner Jay Santangelo, and hear what fun things you can do there this month.
Plus a visit to the incredible resource that is Greenfield Farmers Co-op. I'm Chloe Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte.
I can know my name.
We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.